Have you ever felt the immense pressure of what it means to be a man in the world today? The silent expectation to be a rock, to be unshakable, to project an aura of power and control, even when inside, a storm of uncertainty is raging. Have you ever found yourself in a moment of crisis, not one of roaring flames or clashing swords, but a quiet internal one, and felt that your reaction, your flicker of fear or doubt, was a betrayal of your own masculinity? You are told to be strong, but what is strength? You are told to be confident, but what is the source of true confidence? You are told to be powerful, but what is real power? Society offers a distorted blueprint, one that often equates masculinity with brute force, emotional suppression, and a relentless pursuit of external validation. It's a hollow and exhausting performance, one that leaves many men feeling like imposters in their own lives. We are taught to build our house on the shifting sands of others' opinions, financial success, and dominance over our environment. But when the inevitable storms of life arrive, we find our foundations crumbling, leaving us exposed and adrift. This is not the path to enduring strength. This is the path to perpetual anxiety. The Stoics, those ancient masters of the mind, offered a different blueprint, a different vision of masculinity. It is not a masculinity of loud assertion, but of quiet resilience. It is not the power to command others, but the power to command oneself. It is a strength forged not in the absence of hardship, but in its very heart. It is a power, a calm, and a confidence that cannot be given or taken away because it resides within. And if you stay with me until the end, I will share with you an ancient story that reveals how the most formidable strength is not that which shatters, but that which endures the forge. The first and most crucial step on this path is to recognize a fundamental truth. Allowing others to disturb your peace is to give them power over you. It is a voluntary surrender of your most precious territory, your own mind. Think of it this way: you would never hand a stranger the keys to your home, allowing them to walk in, rearrange the furniture, and create chaos. Yet how often do we hand over the keys to our inner state? A rude comment from a coworker, a cynical news headline, the lingering bad mood of a family member? We allow these things to enter our minds and vandalize our tranquility. The Stoics understood this profoundly. A wise philosopher once noted that we are not disturbed by events, but by the views we take of them. The event itself is neutral. The disturbance is a choice. This is not to say you should become a cold, unfeeling statue. Empathy and compassion are strengths, but there is a vast difference between understanding another's pain and taking that pain on as your own. One is an act of wise connection. The other is an act of self-destruction. Imagine a doctor who, in order to treat a patient's broken leg, decides to break his own leg in solidarity. It's absurd. The doctor's effectiveness comes from his objective, calm, and skilled position, separate from the patient's suffering. He can feel compassion, he can understand the pain, but he does not absorb it. His strength lies in his stability. This is the model for true masculine strength. To be the rock in the river, not the leaf. The river of life, with all its currents of chaos, emotion, and difficulty, will constantly flow around you. The leaf is tossed and turned, its direction dictated entirely by the water. The rock, however, stands firm. It feels the force of the water, it acknowledges its power, but it is not moved from its position. Its essence remains unchanged. To cultivate this is to stop being an emotional sponge. It requires a conscious, daily practice of stepping back when you feel that wave of external feeling begin to wash over you. You must question its origin. Is this my anxiety, or have I absorbed it from someone else? Is this my anger, or am I mirroring the frustration of another? This simple act of questioning is an act of rebellion. It is you reclaiming your mental territory. You are drawing a boundary, not of coldness, but of self-preservation. You are declaring that your inner peace is non-negotiable. True freedom, the kind that leads to lasting power and confidence, begins and ends with this principle. You must focus your energy exclusively on what is yours to command. And the primary domain under your command is your mind and your reactions. Everything else is just weather. A man who masters this is a man who cannot be easily shaken. He moves through the world with a quiet confidence, a calm authority that is far more potent than any loud display of force, because it comes from a place of genuine internal control. Once a man understands that his inner state is his own to protect, he can face the second great truth of this philosophy. Difficult times are not a curse. They are the very forge in which his character is made. Our modern world is obsessed with comfort. We have apps to avoid waiting in line, entertainment to avoid boredom, and a culture that often suggests any form of hardship is a sign that something has gone wrong. We are taught to seek the path of least resistance. But the Stoics would argue this is the path to weakness. They saw adversity as a form of training, essential for the soul. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world in his time, wrote to himself constantly, reminding himself that challenges were opportunities. He believed that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think of the legendary Hercules. His story is not famous because he lived a life of ease. He is a symbol of might because he faced 12 impossible labors. The Hydra, the Nemean lion, the Erymanthian boar. These were not inconveniences in his life, they were his life. They were the curriculum that transformed him from a strong man into a demigod. Without the trials, there is no Hercules. The same is true for us. Adversity is the universe's way of revealing to you the strength you never knew you had. It is the pressure that turns coal into a diamond. When you face a setback, a business failure, a rejection, a personal crisis, the temptation is to see it as a defeat. But this is a failure of perspective. The Stoic perspective reframes it entirely. This is not a defeat, it is a sparring partner. This is not a wall, it is a whetstone. It is here to sharpen you, to test your resolve, to force you to grow. Every time you navigate a difficult situation with courage and reason, you are adding another layer to your inner fortitude. You are building a track record with yourself, proving that you can endure. And this is the true source of confidence. Confidence is not the belief that nothing bad will ever happen to you. That is delusion. Confidence is the deep, quiet knowledge that you will be okay even if bad things happen. It is a trust in your own resilience, a trust that can only be earned by facing the fire and not flinching. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the man on this path learns to ask, "What is this trying to teach me? How can I use this to become stronger?" He starts to see challenges not as threats to his comfort, but as opportunities for his growth. He understands that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. He actively looks for the friction that will polish him, the resistance that will build his strength. This mindset shift is transformative. It turns life from a series of things that happen to you into a grand training ground for the man you are choosing to become. This leads us directly to one of the most powerful distinctions a man can ever make: the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is an inevitable part of the human experience. It can be physical, emotional, or psychological. There is no life without it. To lose someone you love is painful. To fail at something you care about is painful. To be betrayed is painful. Stoicism does not deny this pain. It is not a philosophy of suppression or denial. It is a philosophy of response. Because while pain is an objective fact, suffering is a subjective choice. Suffering is the story you tell yourself about your pain. Imagine two men who both lose their jobs. It is a painful event for both. The first man immediately begins to suffer. He tells himself a story of victimhood and despair. "This always happens to me. I'm a failure. My life is over. I'll never find another job." This narrative, this internal monologue, is the engine of his suffering. He takes the initial pain of the job loss and multiplies it, spinning it into a web of hopelessness that paralyzes him. The second man feels the same initial sting of pain. He acknowledges the fear, the disappointment, the uncertainty, but he chooses a different story. He tells himself, "This is a painful setback. It is a challenge, but it is not the end." What can I learn from this? Perhaps this is an opportunity to find a career that is a better fit for me. What are my next steps? How can I turn this situation to my advantage? He does not deny the pain, but he refuses to create unnecessary suffering around it. He controls his response. He understands that the event itself is just a data point. The meaning he assigns to it and the actions he takes because of it are entirely up to him. This is the essence of what an ancient Stoic teacher meant when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You are the author of your own internal narrative. You can choose to write a tragedy, or you can choose to write an epic of resilience and growth. This power of interpretation is your greatest freedom. When you are in pain, you must become a vigilant guardian of your own thoughts. You must catch the seeds of suffering, the self-pity, the blame, the catastrophizing, before they can take root and grow into a forest of misery. This is not easy. It requires discipline and constant practice. But it is the skill that separates the man who is broken by life from the man who is built by it. By choosing your response, you declare that while the world may inflict pain upon you, it does not have the permission to make you suffer. That power belongs to you and you alone. To master this response, you must embrace the unsung virtue of acceptance. In our culture, acceptance is often mistaken for weakness, for passive resignation, or giving up. This could not be further from the truth. True acceptance is an act of immense strength and realism. It is the crucial starting point for any intelligent action. Acceptance is not saying, "I'm happy this happened." It is saying, "This has happened." It is looking at reality, squarely and without illusion, and acknowledging the facts on the ground. So much of our suffering comes from fighting a battle that is already over. We waste incredible amounts of mental and emotional energy wishing the past were different. We replay events in our minds, torturing ourselves with what-ifs and if-onlys. This is the definition of powerlessness. It is like trying to push a river back up a mountain. The Stoic understands that the past is outside of his control. His energy is a finite, precious resource, and to spend it on what cannot be changed is the ultimate folly. Acceptance is what allows you to conserve that energy and redirect it toward what you can change, the present and the future. It is the moment you stop fighting reality and start working with it. Imagine a ship's captain caught in a sudden, violent storm. He can waste his time on the bridge, cursing the heavens and wishing for clear skies. Or he can accept the reality of the storm and immediately begin the work of navigating it, ordering the crew to secure the sails, changing course, managing the rudder. Acceptance is what allows him to move from a state of useless rage to a state of effective action. When you practice acceptance, you are not condoning what happened. You are simply acknowledging that it is part of your story now. The question then becomes, given that this is true, what is my next move? Given this new landscape, how do I proceed? This is where transformation occurs. You take the raw and often painful material of your life, and you decide what to build with it. Acceptance is the foundation upon which you can construct a new plan, a new strategy, a new future. It is the act of dropping the heavy burden of the unchangeable past so that you have the strength to carry the possibilities of the future. It is the ultimate expression of focusing on what you can control, and it is a hallmark of a man who is truly in command of himself and his destiny. Finally, it is crucial to understand where we, as modern men, stand in the grand sweep of history. There is an old cyclical observation that goes like this: hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. This is not a perfect law of history, but it contains a profound and cautionary truth. For the most part, many of us live in an era of good times. We live with a level of safety, comfort, and abundance that would be unimaginable to our ancestors, including the very Stoics from whom we draw this wisdom. This comfort is a double-edged sword. While it protects us from many of the physical hardships of the past, it also robs us of the automatic, character-forging pressures that those hardships provided. The cycle warns us that prolonged ease, the absence of necessary struggle, can lead to weakness, complacency, and a loss of the very virtues that created the good times in the first place. The greatest danger for a man in an age of comfort is that he will become soft, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. Therefore, the modern man on the path of Stoicism has a unique duty. Since the world no longer reliably imposes the necessary hardships upon him, he must choose to impose them upon himself. He must seek out voluntary hardship. He must choose discipline when the world offers distraction. He must choose to do difficult things, not because he has to, but because he knows it is the only way to build the strength required to be a strong man capable of creating and preserving good times. This means waking up early when you could sleep in. It means taking the cold shower. It means having the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. It means pushing yourself in the gym past the point of comfort. It means reading a challenging book instead of scrolling through meaningless feeds. It means choosing to build something of value instead of merely consuming what others have made. Each of these small, voluntary choices is an act of forging your own character. You are simulating the hard times in a controlled, deliberate way to inoculate yourself against the weakness that comfort breeds. This is the ultimate expression of true masculinity in the modern world. It is not about posturing or dominance. It is about self-mastery. It is about having the wisdom to see the dangers of an easy life and the courage to choose a harder, more meaningful path. It is about becoming the kind of man who does not just benefit from good times, but has the strength, the resilience, and the character to create them for himself, for his family, and for his community. It is the conscious decision to be the strong man in the cycle, ensuring that the legacy you leave behind is one of strength, order, and virtue, not one of weakness and decay. This is the power, the calm, and the confidence that Stoicism offers. It is a timeless blueprint for becoming the man you were meant to be. Now, before you go, let me tell you a story that encapsulates everything we've discussed today. A story about where true strength is found. In a small village nestled between mountains, there lived a master blacksmith, known throughout the land for the unparalleled quality of his swords. One day, a wealthy nobleman arrived with his two sons. He wanted the blacksmith to forge two identical swords, one for each son, as their coming-of-age gift. The blacksmith agreed. He took 2 bars of the finest steel from the same batch and began his work. For the first sword, he followed the nobleman's instructions to the letter. The nobleman, believing that the best things were made with ease and comfort, insisted that the steel be heated gently, cooled slowly in still air, and polished with the softest cloths. The blacksmith did as he was told. The resulting sword was beautiful. It was flawless to the eye, gleaming and perfectly shaped. For the second sword, the blacksmith worked alone in his own way. He thrust the steel into the roaring, white-hot heart of the forge until it glowed with the intensity of the sun. He then pulled it out, not to a gentle rest, but to the violent, rhythmic clang of his hammer. He beat the steel, folding it, hammering it, shaping it with a force that seemed intent on shattering it. Sparks flew like angry stars. After the brutal shaping, he did not let it cool in the air. He plunged the screaming hot metal into a barrel of ice-cold water. The steel hissed and screamed, a sound of immense shock and transformation. The second sword looked much like the first, but it held a different story within its molecules. The blacksmith called the nobleman and his 2 sons. He took the first sword, the one made in comfort, and struck it against an anvil. With a sharp crack, the blade shattered into a dozen pieces. Then the blacksmith took the second sword, the one forged in fire and trauma. He struck it against the anvil with all his might. It rang with a pure, clear note and bounced back, its edge unblemished, its spirit unbroken. The nobleman, stunned, asked, "Why? They were made from the same steel." The blacksmith wiped the sweat from his brow and said, "They were. But a thing's true quality, its strength is not determined by its origin, but by the trials it endures." The first blade was kept comfortable. It was never tested, never pushed to its limits, and so it remained brittle and weak. The second blade was subjected to the greatest stresses I could imagine, the hottest fire, the hardest blows, and the most violent shock. It was the hardship that burned away its impurities, aligned its inner structure, and gave it an unbreakable temper. You did not ask me for 2 beautiful objects. You asked me for 2 swords. A sword is not meant for display. It is meant to endure the clash of battle. And like a sword, a man's character is not forged in comfort, but in the fires of adversity. So, the choice is yours. Will you be the pristine, beautiful blade that shatters at the first sign of real pressure? Or will you be the one that has been through the fire, the one that has been hammered and shocked into a state of unbreakable resilience? This is not a question for someday. It is a question for right now, in this moment. Every challenge you face, every discomfort you endure, every time you choose a reasoned response over a reactive impulse, you are stepping into the blacksmith's forge. You are choosing to be hammered, to be heated, to be plunged into the cold water. You are choosing to become the man you were meant to be, not a fragile object for display, but a tempered soul ready for anything. This is the path of true masculinity. This is the path of the Stoic. Walk it with courage,